You're watching the third lesson in volume. In this lesson, we'll be talking about cylinders again. The volume of cylinders is a little bit easier than surface area, but it's still important to know surface area because I will likely ask you questions involving both. So, as a quick review, before we talked about surface area of a cylinder, and we used this equation 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h, right? So it's important to know what this part represents and what this part represents. So when we look at the equation, and if you take it a little bit at a time, you would see pi r squared. Well, you should know that that is the area of a circle, right? It's the area of a circle, right? And this is 2 times pi r squared because we have two circles with the same area. So it's 2 times that area. So that's why we have 2 pi r squared. Sorry, one second, I have to cough. So in this part of the equation, we have 2 pi r. Well, 2 pi r is the circumference of a circle. So if I draw the same circle again, let me just make this a bit bigger. If I draw the circle again, the circumference of a circle is the outside line or the perimeter of a circle. So 2 pi r is this, right? And I multiply it by the height. Now the reason why we do this is because this part of the equation, pi r squared times 2, gives me the top, right? Gives me the bottom. But I'm looking for this round part. Now this round part is basically just a rectangle, right? Is just a rectangle curled around these two circles, right? So you take this rectangle and you curl it around these two circles. That means this length must also curl around the circumference of the circle. So that must also mean that this length is the circumference of the circle, which is 2 pi r. And so to find the area of this rectangle, right, we know that this length must be 2 pi r. It's base times height, or side times side. So 2 pi r is this side, height is this side. So that's why it's 2 pi r h, because 2 pi r is this length and h is this length. You multiply them together, you get this area. You add it to this, you get the surface area of the cylinder. It is a pain, it is a bit difficult, but just break it down, right? If I were to give you a question, let's say I had a cylinder that had a diameter of 8 and a height of, let's say, 3. I don't know. Okay, well, let's fill in the blanks. We have 2 pi r squared. Okay, so this is 2, right, times pi, which is 3.14, right, times r squared. Well, this diameter is 8, so a common mistake would be to put the 8 there, but it's diameter. We need to find the radius, which is half that, right, which is half that, which would make the radius 4. Right, so then it's 4 squared. Okay, so then I take my trusty calculator and I go 2 times 3.14 times, well, 4 squared is 16, so I just go 16. 100.48. So this equals 100.48, whatever units I'm using. Let's say centimeters. So centimeters, and remember area is squared. So I have the top and the bottom. Now I'm looking for the side. Well, again, we take the 2 times pi, right? 3.14, right? Times r, again, we found that to be 4. And then we times it by the height, which is 3, right? So basically, what I'm doing is I'm just putting in the slots. I'm replacing the symbols. I'm replacing the variables. 2 times pi, 3.14, times r squared, which is 4 squared, which is 16. 2 pi, 3.14, r, right, which is 4, and h with its height. So then I'll just do that. So then I take my calculator again, and I go 2 times 3.14, right, times 4 times 3, which is 75.36. centimeters squared, right? So now I have the area of the side and the area of the top and bottom. Now I just add them up, right? So I take that, add that to this, so it's 100.48, 175.84, 175.84 centimeters squared. Take it piece by piece, right? Do this part first, fill in the blanks. Do this part second, fill in the blanks. Whatever you get here, add it to there. You get your answer, your surface area. Okay? But what about volume? How do we find the volume of a cylinder? Well, in our previous lesson, we talked about volume of, sorry, I'm going to do a bad drawing. Yeah, let me fix that. I can't remember how to do 3D shapes, so you're going to have to bear with me on that. So basically, when we were making or finding out the volume of 3D shapes, it was, let's say this was 3, this was 4, and this was 5. And I'll draw a dotted line like that. Right? When we found the volume of any prism, we found the area of the base. So in this case, it would be 3 times 5, right? And then we stretched it up by the height. So we found the area of the base. I'm going to use a different color. Let's use purple. Right? We find the area of the base. Right? And then we multiplied it by the height. So 3 times 5 times 4, right? Or base times length times width. Or length times width times height. Right? So you find the area of the base and you stretch it up by the height. Well, the same thing is true here. You find the area of the base and you stretch it up by its height. Right? So you find the area of the circle, right? The area of this base. Well, we know that the area of the base is pi r squared. Now what? Well, you stretch this circle to the top. So you multiply that by the height. Right? Why do we multiply by the height? Multiplying by the height stretches this area through the cylinder, giving us the volume. So, in short, the equation for a cylinder is pi r squared, right? Pi r squared, times the height, the area of the circle stretched up. And that gives you the volume of a cylinder. So try these questions on your own. Volume of a cylinder isn't as hard as surface area of a cylinder, but it is still tricky because you might confuse area with circumference, right? A common mistake would be to do this, right? 2 pi r times height. And that would be incorrect because you're doing the circumference, right? That would give you a hollow cylinder, not a volume of a solid cylinder. So try these questions and then try these questions. This will help you reinforce the knowledge of volume, what it is, and how to do it with a cylinder. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next lesson.